he fucking killed me. Oh, the shit he fucking pulled.
Trash ass faggot.
What
Trash
he
ass
did.
faggot. Shut the fuck up.
Where he breaks. He believes in things like legalizing death threats. Paula Wilson called
You just need to shut up, you
Impact,
stupid
a
retard. You fucking sound
James
stupid as fuck, man.
Grider novel.
Oh, you stupid ass, yeah. I'm gonna put you on mute, nigga.
GRIDER.
There you go, now.
I don't like the guys on this DALLYMD channel. It's either Dally Medical Doctor or the town of Dally, Maryland. You see, what happens sometimes is the black criminals that Colin Flaherty reports on, sometimes if they commit a murder or a crime with a gun, and maybe they're smart enough not to keep the gun around, or they want to get rid of it as evidence, they will throw it into rivers and canals. When these guys go diving in the rivers, they will sometimes find a gun. Now, when they do find a gun, they will report it to the police. As you can see here, they made it on the news, and here's a revolver they found that they hand over to the police officer. This is not what my hero, James Grider, would do in my book. I think once he finds out there is a possibility of obtaining a discarded gun in one of the rivers or channels in or around inner cities, he might actually go look for one. Or that's what he might do if he didn't have the wick dick of Fekris, where he can just spawn the wick dick inside a police officer's body, pulp his organs, and steal the guy's service piece, which would be much easier. But let's say there is a story of a kid who needs to shoot up his school because he knows the world is fucked up, and all the happy kids in his school don't realize it. So he wishes he could blow them the fuck away for being such a sheep. Let's say this kid is poor and he can't even afford scuba gear. All he can have are goggles, a snorkeling tube, and maybe a waterproof camera. It's also possible to build your own scuba tank, so he may try that. Let's say he spends half a year desperately searching all the local stream beds, and let's say most are shallow enough to dive down to the bottom just holding your breath. And the waters have to be clear, not so polluted that you can't see your hand in front of your face. And also the climate has to be such that you don't die of hypothermia diving into those streams. Because what if he doesn't have a wetsuit? Now, imagine this entire struggle just to obtain an untraceable firearm that nobody will know you have. You should be feeling yourself already beginning to sympathize with that struggle as you visualize it. Now, let's say he does find a gun, and maybe it's a weak .22 revolver. Depending on how long a gun lay there, it could be rusted to hell and totally unusable. So let's say after 3 months of struggling, he does find a gun, but it's so rusted that you can't do shit with it. So it's almost like fate is mocking him, teasing him. Oh, you came so close. But even if he does find a gun that wasn't laying in the water for very long, maybe just a few weeks, it still might show some rust or be encrusted with mud that might have hardened inside it. I haven't researched this, but could you actually clean up such a gun enough that it can be usable again? Will there be some parts that can't be recovered and will need replacement, especially if it's a semi-automatic. And how long does a gun have to be submerged in water and muck before it can't be restored at all? I mean, he would have to take it apart and clean the hell out of it. Let's say he manages to clean up the gun back to where it can work. Now the task becomes getting bullets. You won't be able to buy bullets in California without a background check pretty soon. And the kid can't buy bullets if he's under 18 anyway. It's a torture what they have done to people with these gun control laws. And in the face of that, it's just so much more disgusting that these guys are licking the cops' boots and turning over the gun just to virtue signal what great people they are, in the face of things being so dark and oppressive that you should be doing the opposite. James Grider has a militant mindset. It's a survivor mindset. Because things aren't rosy the way we are propagandized to think. His mindset in the book is reflective of the mindset of the heroes in the Turner Diaries. They blow up the FBI building, and the destruction accidentally kills a white girl. Of course, they didn't want any white people to die, just the Jews that are running the place, and all the other authority assholes that were in there. But collateral damage was not possible to avoid. There was nothing to do but to show sympathy to the girl and carry on, because even if some of your people die fighting back, it's still better than all of your people die later because you didn't fight back. I see some kind of a strange pattern when it comes to people who are successful on YouTube. They are the type of people who will turn over a gun they found on the bottom of the creek in hopes that it might help solve a murder or some crime if the gun was used in a crime. James Grider doesn't give a fuck about solving any murders. He knows the root cause of the world's problems goes much deeper and will not be solved just by arresting some black guy for killing some other black guy. YouTubers who succeed are also the sort who never go against political correctness. In fact, they seem to be people who never state anything political at all, as if they don't think about politics at all, but are focused only on the bread and circuses. They got millions of dollars, and they consume material possessions, all the material possessions they can, and don't give a fuck about politics, because they're so wealthy they got all these material possessions to distract them. They are also the type of people who pretend to be sad and will cry over the shooting at YouTube headquarters. Yes, they cry over damage done to fucking YouTube. And these are the people who strangely succeed. And I am the one lost eternally in obscurity, treated like shit, all because I come up with fictional characters like James Grider, who has a school shooter psychology, and all because I reference things like the Turner Diaries, like it's an important, legitimate piece of work. Oh, and another thing we shouldn't forget is we have to make it illegal to use digital data as evidence. Videos are digital data. So, if someone is making a vlog that they just found a gun, and they're going to keep it, and, the police will not be able legally to act on this in any way. And see, these ideas I suggested would make a good movie as well. A kid searching the rivers for a randomly discarded gun that might have been a murder weapon, so he can commit a school shooting or kill a cop, and he's hoping that the gun he finds will be something that he can clean up and fix up and be able to safely fire again. And of course, this includes all the misadventures that he might get into in the process. I remember I was writing a Rex and Benny story, and if I were to depict some men that were living in a diving bell under the sea, and they were raised to the surface inside a pressurized chamber, I would write that an accident caused rapid decompression of the chamber, and all the nitrogen inside their bodies fizzed like carbon dioxide in a soda when you open up the soda can. And I would write that for some inexplicable reason, nitrogen bubbles fizzed inside a man's penis erection, inside all the blood in the penis erection, and caused the penis to split open down its length because of all the nitrogen bubbles expanding rapidly in the blood. And the goal of writing something like that would have been to have people say that it's the funniest thing they ever read, funnier than any Hollywood comedy, and then I would be celebrated for coming up with that. But instead what I encountered was, all these kids would be talking about Hollywood movies that they watch, and TV shows that they watch, and how funny they are, but nobody would find my Rex and Benny stories funny.